Alrighty, folks, this is an episode I look forward to each and every week. This is where Mark, the financial firefighter, goes through your comments, pulls out the spicy, pulls out the great ones, and sometimes pulls out ones that we just need to go deeper on because sometimes I don't get the ability to respond in detail. I just get too many comments and I want to reply to everyone. So, Mark, what did you find this week?
All right, so we have Kyle Churong 489. So he has a few comments that we're going to dig into, but let's maybe kind of get an idea of where his mind is. So you actually reposted one of his comments on X. So it says, so your title thumbnail was "What is worse, inflation or job market?" And he commented, "Inflation is way worse than CPI reporting. Unemployment number is way worse than reported. Unemployment rate way worse than reported. Here's an advice: don't buy anything for the next 15 years."
Gosh, how to reply to this? So first and foremost, Kyle, I appreciate your support. You are all over the comments. I would argue, or I would argue that Kyle is very negative, and I don't know what Kyle's situation is. Don't know him from Adam, but generally speaking, it appears that Kyle looks at the world as the glass half full, right? Comes at it from a very negative mindset. I would tell you that first off, I've never met anybody who got rich, became successful, that had that mindset. It's really tough to grow and flourish when you think everything is horrible, right? It's a very scarcity mindset. It's a very negative mindset. And again, for all I know, Kyle's a multimillionaire. For all I know, I have no idea. But I'm just telling you that mindset is not a helpful mindset. And again, I don't mind being negative, right? There are times that the world sucks, and all of that. But when you look at Kyle's comments, and they're all kind of this direction, I would ask Kyle to maybe get out of his doom loop. I don't know this for sure. Kyle is obviously a very consistent watcher of this channel, which I appreciate. But if I had to look at his most viewed or what channels he's watching, he's got to be in that doom loop. And I would tell you, if you're there, pull yourself out, cleanse yourself, because there's opportunity everywhere. That's the key. That even if even if we're in a deep, dark, nasty recession, opportunity is everywhere. And frankly, the more pain, the more opportunity. And that's just what I want people to believe. I wear this hat, Everyday Wealth Builders, because I believe it does take everyday action and movement and moving forward. And that's the community that we are. It's never easy, but the path is simple. Every day, focus, discipline. So I don't think I really need to comment any more than that, just that Kyle seems to be in a doom loop. I will say that the government stats, it's really funny when people talk about unemployment rates worse and the inflation's worse and all of those things. And I'm like, okay, so what? What I look at these numbers for is I don't believe any government number. But when you watch them for 30 years like I have, you're looking at trends and inflection points. That's all that matters to me. Where's the trend and when do we have inflection points? If the number's 3.2 and it should be 7.2, I don't really care. As long as I'm getting the data every month, every week, and I can watch the trend. And then you watch a trend and you look for an inflection point, because that's when the economy changes. So I don't need to get into any more than that, I think.
All right, like I said, he does comment quite a bit, and like I said, you like the engagement.
Yeah.
And he seems like you said, on the negative side, maybe a doomer, but he's also looking for some recognition or credit, it seems like. So,
Okay.
he did comment a few days ago. He's talking about you don't want wage inflation because the cost of living continue to inflate and wealth gap gets wider. You want deflation in the form of depression. That's the natural cycle. We're going to need a huge bubble burst to get back to normal economic cycle now. You commented, "I don't want a depression." And then he came
Yeah.
back a little bit
Oh,
later and says,
oh, he did. Okay.
yeah, he says, "You said you didn't want a depression. Now, after I suggested you're on board, man, you got to give me credit." And then you said again, "I don't want a depression." And
Yeah.
now
I don't
he's
know what
saying
he's talking about.
deflation is a depression, not recession.
Wow. So I don't know where he's getting this. Again, you can never get inside the head of the viewer. So first off, never said I wanted a depression. I've never even said deflation. So I don't know where he's getting that from. We've seen some rent softness and whatnot, but again, I don't think we're heading into a deflationary cycle at all. So I don't know where he wants credit from. I don't know what he heard. I don't know what he heard me say that thinks I deserve credit. But hey, if you want credit, Kyle, great, good job. I mean, I don't know. Congratulations, pat on the back. But I mean, again, this is not only for Kyle, but for a lot of because I still see a lot of doomers engage on my channel who they actually want the world to burn. They want the entire system to burn to the ground. And we're going to call that a depression for this conversation. And the reason that they want that is because they believe that the rich and the wealthy will be destroyed and that the wealth gap will collapse. So I just want you to realize this. If you actually study economics, like I have a degree in it. I've been studying the data for 30 plus years now. What you may not realize is in the Great Depression, sure, the wealthy lost the most. Like when you look at the aggregate, the wealthy lost the most. But if you look at lifestyle, if you look at households, the majority of households were in food lines. We had an unemployment rate of 24 or 26%. It was horrible for the average Joe and Jane. And that's what these doomers and idiots don't realize is, yes, you may be able to celebrate for a moment that the billionaire is now only worth 100 million. But your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, you're going to be in bread lines and food lines and, not going to have running water. And it's like, do you guys know what you want? Like you're so focused on burning the rich that you don't realize all of that cascades to the bottom. And when you look at the lifestyle of the bottom and even in the middle, it would be horrific, right? Your iPhone would be turned off. It's like you got to be careful what you wish for. And if you're only looking at hurting others without understanding how everyone else would be impacted, you're just misguided. You don't trust me, folks, even Kyle doesn't want a depression. He just doesn't know it.
Yeah, I love that. I love so even last week we kind of touched on, you did the Grok experiment about which way do you lean politically and whatnot. And you touched on it a bit earlier today about, just presenting information. You don't believe a lot of the data that comes out. But Tob855 commented, said, and I think this refers to a lot of times what you say in your videos. You say, I'll let you decide if that's good or bad. I wish this was more people's disposition.
Yeah, I don't know why everything has to be political. I don't know why. I think about politics like 1%. I am out here thinking about my family and my community 99%. The reason I watch politics is because they set the rules of the road. And if the rules of the road change, I might need to change. I think too many people are focused on red or blue. I think too many people see a stat and it's easily right or wrong. I'm like, guys, that is such a waste of energy. Getting all angry because of red or blue crap is such a waste of energy. You only have so much energy in a day. And if you're letting what the little orange man or the Trump or whatever you want to call him, if you're letting him impact your day to that level and to sap that energy and to destroy relationships, how many people have lost family members and friends because of politics? Really? That's what we're doing now? So yeah, I do the best I can. Again, I own the fact that I lean right for sure. But I just want to report the facts because that's how I operate. I'm like, okay, what are the rules of the road? Let's see how we the Zuber family can make some money and see how Zuber family can help people. And I'm not here to tell you what's good or bad. That's not my job. My job is to tell you what's happening, maybe connect the dots, because again, I think that's what economists should do, is instead of just talking about, like today's weekly unemployment claims, give some education about continuing claims and why one may be worse than the other. Talk about price elasticity, talk about opportunity costs, talk about all these fun and exciting economic things, and just tie them together for folks, and then let people make the judgment. I'm not here to be judge and juror. I don't care about that. I'm just trying to do me, and that's hard enough.
Like you kind of touch on quite a bit too, how long you've been studying the economy and doing economics and whatnot. And I don't know if you've ever thought of something like this, but Levi Conquers All commented this. He said, "It amazes me that the Fed does public announcement at all. The appropriate thing to do is to make a decision, then move the rate in that direction 1 basis point per day, pausing and maybe reversing periodically just to keep people guessing. No big announcement of 25-point moves, just boring, tiny micro adjustments in the chosen direction. Boring as it should be."
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, that's a very interesting idea or comment. Again, as somebody who's studied this for years, first off, the Fed could absolutely do what was articulated there. They have adopted a model of 25 basis point cuts or raises, right? That's just the model that they've adopted. But you're absolutely right. They could move this 100 basis or 100th of a basis point every day if they wanted, one way or another. Typically speaking, again, why have they? And it's really interesting. The more I think about this, I think that's a wonderful insight. Why do they do a quarter? Well, because we weren't in a technology driven world when this was adopted, right? And why do they communicate? Because there wasn't mass media and every word they said wasn't covered. So that's why they were basically trying to communicate to the bond market what's coming down the pipeline. Because this is what the last thing the Fed wants to do, is surprise the market. That's why they make comments. Because if you surprise the market and you have people on the wrong side of the boat could capsize. So if you want to know why the Fed speaks, it's so they can guide the market to where they want. Now, you can argue, and I think this is a wonderful comment, that there's too much of it today. I agree. Totally agree. It used to just be Alan Greenspan, right? Just the Fed chair would talk. Now everybody talks, and you're seeing fractions, and you see this in turning points. So, I mean, that's an interesting idea. I would support it, frankly, if the Fed wanted to go that direction. I don't think they will, but I mean, it's an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, those are the kind of comments I love coming across, where it kind of really makes you think and a different viewpoint. And this other comment is also ones that get me excited when they're kind of questions for you, like newbie
Yeah.
questions. So this individual, Robert Enger 3863 says, "New question here. Is tariff inflation not a one-time cost increase? Do we expect month-on-month inflation to continue to rise due to tariffs? Or should it be a one-time bump, maybe spread out over a couple of months that quickly settles out?"
So I have to answer this in two ways. There's the book, right? The textbook way. And I believe several Fed presidents have talked about this. The textbook way says that tariff inflation should be looked through because it is that kind of one step move, right? It's a step function, not a trend. However, what we are seeing in today's environment is that tariffs are still being introduced and changed and modified and this and that. We just saw a 50% jump in, I think, aluminum and steel tariffs. This tariff thing is not done. It seems to change every day. And yeah, that just means that this is not going to be a one step. This seems to be guaranteed to be going on for the next 6 to 9 months. So it's going to feel very much like true inflation, where there's month on month growth and all of that. I think when the textbooks look back on this in a decade, they're going to have a lot more literature, because again, the textbook said that tariffs are a one step thing, but if you roll them out in a very seemingly chaotic and haphazard way, it's not a step function. I mean, this is like real inflation. And then the last thing that sets lots of people off is they call tariffs inflation. Well, again, textbook related, it's more like a tax than inflation. Um, and in this case, the taxes could be paid by the shipper, the receiver, or the customer, or all three. And I think we're going to figure out how much of the supply chain eats this tax versus the consumer, because the consumer portion is the only part that's truly inflation. So I think there's a lot of economists like me who studied and passed the test because they understood that tariffs were a tax and it was a step function, that are looking in reality today and going, well, that didn't work. Right? Every day it seems like tariff on this and tariff on that is changing. And yeah, so it's not fitting the traditional model for sure.
All right, I know school seems to be blowing up right now. Every day there's new people joining,
So
and
happy.
these past few weeks you've had some amazing speakers, live speaking, that are going to be either speaking at the event coming up. But you had Thatch Gwynn on the
Mhm.
other week, and I think that was very impactful. And one thing he left me with, and someone also commented on that video,
Mm.
it says, love the question. Are you just interested in living your life to the fullest, or are you committed?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, and you really have to be a deep thinker on that, right? Are you interested or committed? Because there's a different level. It's just different levels, right? Are you interested in getting rich? It's kind of casual and this, and you just go by night, and anything could get in your way and be a barrier. But if you're committed, you just keep going. You get up. You get knocked down. You get up. You get knocked down. You get up. Right. And whether this interested or committed is that's just where life is, right? I'm on this health journey, for example. Interested or committed? I'm committed, right? Spending real money, doing something every day, changing my lifestyle, my routine to try to get to these numbers. Committed. Interested to be like, oh, it's somebody's birthday, have some cake. Oh, it's this, it's that. Yeah, I think you've really got to ask yourself, what do you want? And then you got to go that next step. Are you just like one of the things that I see a lot of people do today is they say they want something. They want to get rich. They want a six pack abs. They want to have a great relationship. They want to do this. They want to do that. But then life happens and they're on to the next thing. So you've got to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want it because it looks good on social media? That's not the way. You've got to want it at your core, and you got to be willing to fight for it because it's never easy.
Yeah, another speaker you had on was Pace Morby, and there was a lot of great takeaways also in that. And I think one of the biggest things he was talking about was fear.
Yeah.
Gustavo Barrera 4415 commented on one of your videos, says, glad I kept watching this show 5 years ago. I was
Mm.
scared of failure without even trying to take the first step, but fought my fears and now doing far better in life. I think a lot of people let the fear take over. I could be on property 4 or 5 by now. Hopefully everyone here gets to their ideal goal of even if it takes longer than 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. One of my biggest takeaways from the Pace interview was what he called BS, and that stands for belief system. And again, one of the things that I keep talking about for everyday wealth builders, why our community is so strong, why everybody gels together, is because we all believe it's possible. I believe too many people out there don't believe it's possible, so they don't even try. Or, as kind of Pace went into in the beginning of that show, you believe you want it and you're committed. Let's say you want it and committed to tie Thatch and Pace's conversation together. But then you have 5 friends who are all deadbeats. They're going to talk you out of it. They're going to keep throwing grain, sand in the gears and oil in the water. It's just going to be you're not going to get there. You've got to have an iron will and cut those people off. And Pace did a lot of that. So I think Pace and Thatch are really delivering kind of similar messages, and hopefully one day I'll be included in that bunch. And you've got to believe it's possible. What's your belief system? I mean, that was the big thing for me is, I didn't really know it was possible but I knew the only way to get there is to show up every day. And again, I am super lucky. I didn't know this in the beginning. I am super lucky that I have the ability to focus like nobody's business on a task every day. And oh, by the way, to be excited about tomorrow and not think about yesterday. That is just a superpower and a gift that is in my DNA. And that's where it's at. And yeah, I appreciate Pace being a keynote speaker and coming to the event. He's a busy guy. He's tough to get, but we got him. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, going back to kind of him talking about fears to overcome, and everyone sees your channel's growing, you're killing it out there, and I don't think people realize maybe even you have some fears. And that was a question that's actually posted in school, 3 fears to overcome. And you said it was an interesting exercise. And your 3 fears were not being the best human being I can be, forgetting my main goal of positive impact, and not living an amazing life.
Yeah, I remember that question. I actually thought about that for about a half a day before I went back in. And this is why I love school, because I look at it every day. I'm not the most active, but there are times it's like, you know what, I got to get involved in this. And it's really funny that just that thought exercise, it was freeing. Because again, as Pace talked about, once you can identify the fear, you can deal with it. Right? It's like the kid with the boogeyman in the closet. You turn on the light, it's not there. And again, I think everybody has fears, and if you understand what they are, and one of the things that I like to do is share everything. Right? Some people like to keep their fears inside. I don't mind. I don't mind sharing my mistakes. I like to live out loud. I'm embarrassed by very little, and I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful exercise. But yeah, those are the 3 fears that I came up with. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and seems like the ticket sales are going great. It's been picking up. I think you probably will hit that goal of getting 100 sold
I hope,
before end of August.
I hope so. Yeah.
But I also want to showcase, I guess, she will be speaking at the event, Leah the Trader. So
Yes.
you reposted something she shared, but it says, back in the days, I told my little brother to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Kronos. He lost his password. I had it, but I didn't give it to him. Force diamond hands. Now we logged in, and basically it's Bitcoin's up 565%, ETH is up 237, Solana 620. But she said he did better than me, constantly messing with it. And you said
That's
buy
the
and
key.
hold again.
Buy and hold win. I mean, again, I think Dion brought this up to me one time many years ago. Like, if you go and look at the best performing portfolios, it's dead people, because they don't trade. They just hold forever. It's like, really? And now we have Leah. And again, Leah's going to be, like, one of the things that I do every year is I try to engage in new conversations. And Leah's been on the channel a couple of times, has an amazing story. But I guarantee you, she's going to come in and blow the house down. Right? Nope. Like, probably, I don't know, 5% of my world maybe even knows who she is. Right? You do, obviously. Because you kind of you look for these things, but people are just going to be. She's just a ball of fire. Great mindset. Doesn't take crap from anybody.
Yep.
And she lives her life out loud. So people are gonna. There's going to be a couple of people at the event, Leah being one of them, and Andrea being another one, that are. You're going to watch that presentation. You're going to go, "Oh my God, I got to follow this person." Not because you want to do stock trading or callers or whatever she's into these days, but just because she's got her head on right, and she's living out loud. So I look forward to introducing her to my community.
All right, so let's maybe wrap this one up with a Cody Sanchez post that you shared on X. It says,
Okay.
money is incredible, but being alone, unhappy, and rich is worse than married, happy, and poor. Just a reminder.
Yeah. I really Cody. If you follow Cody for any length of time, she's definitely made a pivot in the last 6 months, and she's living more, like I just said, Leah, out loud. She's not trying to craft this persona that everybody is supposed to love. She's like, I am who I am, and I love that for her, and I like watching that. Because again, you can't, if you try to be everything to everyone, you're not going to be who you are to yourself, the most important person. So I love this evolution for her. And I agree with her. Having all, being Scrooge McDuck, right? That old cartoon, having all the money and the gold, but no friends, no family, kind of enjoy it with is a hollow victory. And yeah, I would much rather have a happy family, happy life, and be broke. Now, don't get me wrong, I like to have it all, but I think she's right. No reason to be Scrooge McDuck and have the money, but no one to share it with.
Yeah, I love that. And like I said, I think everyone enjoys, you being just honest out there, putting everything out. Like you said, you talked about getting scammed on
I
social
did.
media and whatnot. So
I got.
yeah. So
It
it
happens.
it happens, right?
Yeah, even to me.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I love so maybe any updates on the event? It seems like you're getting that fire. It seems like
Yeah.
you're happy again about it.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. Because again, I got to stroke a check for between 75 and 80 grand in like 70 days or something. And getting 100 tickets sold kind of, it's half that, right? So it's easier to tolerate when you can, you got half of it coming in, and I'll just front the other half. But so that's good. Yeah, we're making improvements. One of the speakers from last year, actually the most impactful presentation last year was Fred, talking about mindset. And just to tell you the kind of great people we have, he came up with an idea, and yeah, I'll put it here. So we're going to move Fred from day 2 to day 1 in the morning. So the agenda is changing. But why are we doing that? Because Fred knows that a lot of people need help, and this is what he does for a living. This is what he does. So what he's going to do is at the end of his talk, he's going to talk about having 8 15-minute one-on-one sessions for people that want to go deeper on something. Because again, we're in a room talking about mindset and fears, and not everybody is willing to talk about that openly. So he's going to have 8 15-minute slots, lunch day 2. That's why he's going to talk day 1, so we can get the schedule set up for day 2. And he's just going to do us all a solid. He doesn't have to do this. He's not being paid. He just wants to give back because he's taken, we've helped him in the community, and his wife, Tamika. And this is the kind of people we have. This is the kind of people we attract. When you're just a good person, you keep showing up and you admit your mistakes, and, you admit when you get scammed, and people just know you're real. They're going to do some solids. And Fred, I can't believe Fred's going to do this. He's going to skip lunch day 2. He's going to have 8 one-on-one sessions with people. And, I'm just in awe that somebody would do that for our community. So shout out Fred, his lovely wife, Tamika.
All right, and if people haven't heard the daily financial news this morning, you mentioned there's something special for the first
Yeah,
people that bought the.
I'm going to do something special for the first 100 people. Again, I have the tickets. I'll be able to identify who the first 100 were, and I will find a way to make sure that the first 100 get something at the event.
All right, well, everyone go grab your tickets out there before they sell out.
There you go. Thank you, buddy. Take care.
All right.